Hey everybody, and welcome back as we are continuing to look over the cards for the Commander Legends Battle for Baulders Gate set coming out on June 10th. Once again, we'll be doing a pre-release at our store here at Captain Gamers on June 3rd and that weekend, and you can expect that your LGS will be doing the same. So keep a lookout for that, and let's go ahead and talk about some more of these cards. Where we left off, we're going to get into the black cards for the set. Once again, some of these cards are reprints that I haven't seen before, or maybe that I have, but I'm just looking at these cards in like blinder mode, and so I'm like, oh, here's a card, and let's talk about it. So worth noting a couple things, these cards are for the Commander set, so you will have to play these in a Commander format, most of them anyways. There are some cards that are modern friendly, and none of these cards that are standard friendly as far as I'm aware. So we'll have to look at that, but I'm pretty sure these are all Commander cards, with the exception of a couple that reprints that they're putting into this set, just that fits in the flavor of what they're doing. Also, this is a Dungeons and Dragons based or themed set, so we do see a lot of cards that would be characters in Dungeons and Dragons, so something more to be excited about. So we start off with the black cards, and diving into that, I'm going to get some caffeine just to boost myself a little bit more. So let's talk about the Ancient Brass Dragon. This is a card that I know I've seen before. It is a 7 mana Elder Dragon. It is a 7/6 with flying. And whenever this deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20. And when you do, you put any number of target creature cards with a total mana value of X or less from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, X being that result. An amazing card for any black deck. And rolling a d20 is such a thematic thing to do for Dungeons & Dragons. I know it's unfortunate to add another die that you must have on hand for a card game, for Magic the Gathering, especially with all these tokens that you're having to keep track of, but a d20 is something I always have on person, just because, well, I love Dungeons & Dragons. So this is, especially seeing a dragon in a Dungeons & Dragons themed set, makes me excited. Even more so that it's an Elder Dragon. So, yeah, I love this card. It's still good. I want to say this is the same effect it had before. I don't think it was flip a coin before, but I could be wrong. But I don't see how it could be with a returning X or less. So, yeah, this is a great card, and I can't wait to try to add this to one of my Commander decks. Next, we have our background. So this one is Criminal Past for 3 mana. Commander creatures you own have Menace, and this creature gets +X power, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess, sure. Not a whole lot to say about that one. I think it's all right, I guess. It doesn't add to its toughness, so it's just as easy to kill. Menace does make it more aggressive. The plus power makes it more aggressive, I suppose, depending on how many creatures in your graveyard. So, not great in a token deck, since tokens aren't going to be sitting in the graveyard. Well, let's move on to the next card. The next one being Cultist of the Absolute, a 1 mana background. Commander creatures you own get +3/+3, have flying, death touch, and ward, pay 3 life. And the ability that at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Wow. Okay. So, good in a token deck. Oh my lord. I mean, it's good. Enchantments that give flying, that give death touch are always good. And the ward to pay 3 life, that is really nice. Your opponent must pay 3 life to even target your commander. That's nice. So far, the background isn't blowing me away, but it's very thematic, and I give it props for that. So this is another card that I'm pretty sure is a reprint. I think I've seen this one before. This is Elderbrain for 7 mana. A 6/6 horror with Menace. When this attacks a player, you exile all cards from that player's hand. Then they draw that many cards. You may play land and cast spells from among the exiled cards for as long as they remain exiled. And if you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it. Yeah, I love Elderbrain. Loved it before, love it now. And just because of how thematic it is for Dungeons and Dragons, I mean, the Elderbrain is a very lore-heavy creature. So, I love it. Alright, so next we move to the Passageway Seer. This is a 4-mana, 2/2 Tiefling Warlock with lifelink. When he enters the battlefield, you take the initiative, and at the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, okay, it's not bad. It's good because it gives you the initiative, so if you're building a dungeon delving deck, it makes sense to put this one in there. Next we have Safana, the Kalimport Cutthroat. For 3 mana, it is a 3/2 legendary human rogue with menace. At the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, create a treasure token. Create 3 of those tokens instead if you've completed a dungeon. So, and again, it allows you to choose a background. I like the card. Again, for a dungeon delving deck, I like this one, especially if you give it Dungeon Delver. So, not bad. Next we have Cervac, Deathbringer, a 4-mana 3/4 legendary human knight. At the beginning of each player's end step, if no permanents left the battlefield this turn, that player loses X life, where X is his power, and you choose a background. Well, this is one of the first, this is unfortunate too, but this is one of the first ones that I've seen that you might even be incentivized to choose another black background. So I'm just thinking with this one having a criminal past, you can definitely increase its power for every creature that's in your graveyard, and then every opponent who chooses to be passive instead of aggressive, then what ends up happening is that they lose a ton of life points just because. And it's not counting as combat damage, so keep in mind that if this makes an opponent lose 21 life at any point, it's not going to be lethal unless that is their life points. So, moving on to Scion of Hallister. Hallister? Yeah, I guess that's right. For 2 mana, it's another background. Commander creatures you own have the ability, the first time you would draw a card each turn, instead look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 into your graveyard and the other back on top library, and then you would draw a card. A long little list of things to do there, but I get the gist of it being that you can essentially, what was it called? Surveil, I think, 2 at that point. You look at the top 2, put any number in the graveyard, the rest back on top of your library. Yeah, not a bad card, especially for black. It also incentivizes a little bit more of that milling to get creatures into your graveyard, but no point in getting creatures in your graveyard to combo with the other background, because you don't want to have 2 backgrounds in your commander, and you can anyways. So, mixed feelings on that one. Next we have Sturge, a 1-mana, 1/1 insect bat. Oh, I hate Sturges. Everyone does. So that's flying. It can't block. It can't block, and it has Blood Drain for 2 mana, and you pay a life, and you sacrifice this, you draw a card. Oh, gross. Alright, well, yeah. I'm surprised it doesn't have lifelink, since Sturge is just drained from your hit points whenever they hit you. They might as well have lifelink, but you can't win them all, I guess. I'm not really excited about it. Summon Undead, a 5-mana sorcery. You may mill 3 cards and return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Whoa! Hi! Another good card. I like it. Maybe a reprint. It's a common. But yeah, no, I like that card for 5 mana. It makes sense to do what it does. Next we have Viconia, the Drow Apostate, a 3-mana, 2/3 legendary elf cleric that at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, return a creature card at random from your graveyard to your hand, and it allows you to choose a background as well. Yeah, I don't like the at random stuff usually. I mean, it fits in with D&D a little bit, but not really my thing. But not a bad card. For 3 mana to get something into your hand is always nice, especially from your graveyard. Alright, that does it for black. That moves us to our red cards. We start with Baal's Invoker, a 3-mana, 4/2 Dragon Shaman with Scorching Ray, which is an 8-mana ability that it deals 4 damage to each opponent. Wow-wee. I mean, it's just a lot of mana for effect. So, because 8 mana, just odds are, unless there's a way to reduce that cost, odds are 8 mana, that's your turn. So, yeah, I'm not really excited about that. You can use treasures, but then you get those treasures are gone forever. So, next we move on to Fang Dragon, a 7-mana, 6/3 dragon that has this sorcery adventure ability. For 2 mana, it uses Forktail Sweep, where it deals 1 damage to each creature that you don't control. I like that. And then you can cast it for its converted mana cost to summon the 6/3 with flying. Yeah, I mean that's cute. It's a dragon. I like seeing dragons. It's a common dragon. Makes sense. Next we have Furbolg Flutist, a 6-mana 4/4 giant bard. Oh, that's funny. So this will require a little bit of reading here. It has enthralling performance that when this enters the battlefield, you gain control of target creature that you don't control until the end of the turn. You untap it, you give it haste, but you also give it myriad until the end of the turn. Wow, that may be pretty good. I was not excited up until I saw myriad. Yeah, I can see that being really good. Imagine taking control of some big creature or some creature that does something upon combat damage or does something upon attack declaration. There's a lot of things you could do with this. You definitely want to utilize that myriad ability. So if you take control of one of your opponent's cards that have a tap ability, yeah, okay, that's not bad, but you want to utilize that myriad if you can, and that can only happen upon attack declaration. So, all right. Ooh, next we see Fireball. This is a card that I used to play with all the time. I'm not really sure it's any good anymore, but it is going to be interesting to see in draft. It is 1 red mana and then X of any mana. It costs 1 more to cast for each target beyond the first, and it deals X damage divided evenly, rounded down among any number of targets. Oh. Was it evenly before? Interesting. I thought you could just assign how much damage to each one you were doing. That's what I remember from Fireball. But it makes sense that it would be evenly because it's like a radius blast. So it could have been that this is just what it was before. It's been years since I played with Fireball. So I love seeing Fireball come back. It is not terribly impressive though. So I can see Fireball being good in like a Hanada deck. I've seen Hanada play off pretty well where it just is X. But yeah, I'm not thinking that this is all that interesting of a card. Alright, so next we go to Guild Artisan, a 2 mana background where commander creatures you own have. Whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, you create 2 treasure tokens. So it incentivizes you to keep going after the highest health person, I guess. Not bad. Treasure token generation in a Dungeons & Dragons themed set makes a lot of sense. So, I like it. Next, we have Lightning Bolt, a classic. It's a 1 mana, deal 3 damage. Everyone pretty much compares a damage spell to Lightning Bolt because Lightning Bolt is it tells you how much damage is worth, and in this case it says 1 mana for 3 damage is what you should be looking for. Alright, next we go to Levon Cultist of Tiamat, I think is how she's pronounced, but it's a 3 mana 1/3 legendary dragon shaman that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature gets +X power until the end of the turn, X being that spell's mana value. I like that. And then choose a background. So mana value is more important than converted mana cost, so thank goodness that they changed that up, especially with Fireball coming back. Mana value is the amount of mana you spent on a spell, but converted mana cost is X equals 0 at all, always. No matter what you paid for it, X would be considered 0. So I like that as mana value. This could be a good card, especially making Fireball a little bit more interesting to run with. Next, we talk about the Nemesis Phoenix, a 5 mana 4/2 Phoenix with flying. For 3 mana, you can return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking, but you must only activate that during the declare attacker's step and only if you're attacking 2 or more opponents. So it combos really well with Myriad. I like that. Oh, not bad. 5 mana is kind of pricey, so you want to maybe combo this with black, where you just mill it into your graveyard, that way you can bring it back for 3 mana. That makes a lot more sense than a 5 mana 4/2 flying, so that's interesting. Alright, next is a card that I've been really excited about. I haven't actually read the effect. I waited for you guys before I read the effect, but I'm used to the Wand of Chaos from the Dungeons & Dragons set that I saw in that commander deck. Now we have the Wand of Wonder, a 4 mana artifact. So let's see what it does. For 4 mana, you may tap it, roll a d20, and each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card, then shuffle the rest into their library. You may cast up to X instants and or sorcery spells from among the cards that are exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Okay, and so what does X equal? So depending on your d20 roll, I guess, it looks like a 1 to 9 means X is 1, fair enough. On a 10 to 19, X is 2, and on a nat 20, X is 3. Okay, well that's not, I mean, typically you go up against 3 opponents, so that makes sense. I just wish that on a nat 20, there wasn't even the possibility that there was an opponent you're going up against that you can't use their spell. Because a pod, even for draft, a pod can go up to 5 players, meaning you could have 4 opponents. I don't recommend that many players for a commander game. I'm just saying it's possible. So on a nat 20, you're telling me that I can only pick 3 of the 4 opponents I have to cast their stuff for free? I'm greedy, and this is a wand of wonder. I want more. Well, fair enough. Move on to the next card. Alright, Wild Reversal, which is interesting because it's not Narc, that's Reversal, so it's like, what? Alright, for 3 mana, it's an instant that you choose target spell with or ability with 1 or more targets, you roll a d20 and add the greatest power among creatures you control. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay. So you roll a d20 and you get to have a modifier. This is the first card I've seen where a modifier can happen. Modifier is very normal and, well, I guess mostly in Pathfinder, but in D&D you use it for your abilities. Your abilities will add to your d20 roll. So it makes a lot of sense that this would have finally a modifier of some kind. In this case, adding the highest power among creatures that you control to your roll. If your total ends up being a 1 to 14, you may choose new targets for that spell or ability. So it's like a counter, but not. On a 15 or higher, you may choose new targets for that spell or ability, and then copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Oh, yes. Okay, this is a great card. This will be good in general Commander. So, yes, I'm really happy to see this card. It's the red and the blue are just making me really excited. A blue-red deck might be pretty strong in this set. And even if this set itself isn't good enough, you can always mesh it with the other Dungeons & Dragons set because they have commander cards, or you might mix it with other cards that we've seen before. Alright, that does it for red. Now we move on to our green cards. We start with the Acolyte of Bahamut. So this is a 2 mana background where the commander creatures you own have the first dragon spell you cast each turn costs 2 less. Wow, that's really strong. So it goes good in a dragon deck if you can splash in green. Most dragon decks I think they're red, blue, black. I'm not sure. But, I mean, Bahamut is Dragon God, so. Next, we go to the Bramble Sovereign, a 4 mana, 4/4 Dryad. This is a mythic rare. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 mana, and if you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. Okay. I mean, for 2 mana, it's pretty good. At first glance, it's like, well, can this interact with the legendary rule at all? But it technically can. What'll happen is you'll copy your opponent's legendary card, maybe their commander, once it hits the battlefield for 2 mana. You get a copy of it, haha, and now you get to sacrifice 1. But they're going to sacrifice their token, so it doesn't do anything. It's cool if you get something upon death, though, if you have death triggers. Other than that, I guess I struggle a little bit with seeing how it interacts with your opponents, but it gives you the option, so I know it can. I don't see it yet, but I definitely see how it could benefit you as a green player. Next, we go to the Cloakwood Hermit, a 3 mana background where commander creatures you own have, at the beginning of your end step, if a creature card was put into a graveyard from anywhere this turn, create 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. No, not the squirrels again. Oh no, the death by squirrels may happen again. Well, that's cute. I like the little squirrel summoning. Next, we have the Dreadlen Worm? Lenorm. Okay. It's a snake dragon. It has scale deflection for 4 mana. It's an instant adventure where you put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature and untap it. It gains hexproof until the end of the turn. That's a really good interaction on your opponent's turn. It's just kind of expensive for 4 mana. You gotta leave a lot open for that. But for 7 mana, you may cast it as a creature, and he cannot be blocked by creatures with power 3. By creatures 3 or less, and it's a 7/6. Okay, that's nice. Next, we have Ernest Gloom Stalker, a 3 mana 3/3 legendary halfling ranger. It has Death Touch, and whenever she attacks, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And you may choose a background. It's good to be able to bring lands up, especially if you mill cards, or someone else is milling your cards. So that's pretty good. And it also interacts really well with lands that sacrifice, so it's good to bring them back. I mean, heck, with Streets of New Capenna, we have lands that sacrifice to pull other lands from your deck, so this is a cool way to keep that going, and you also get to gain more life. So anytime you get to gain additional effects that way, it is valuable. So next we have Halcyon Emerald Arc Druid, a 4 mana 2/4 legendary elf druid. For 1 mana until the end of the turn, target token you control becomes a green bear creature with base power and toughness 4/4 in addition to its other colors and types. And of course, you may choose a background for this commander. I can see that being pretty interesting. It maintains any of the abilities that it had before, so it retains, any of the abilities it had before. It doesn't take that away. So it's just a 4/4 bear, green, and whatever other color it was, and other abilities, so interesting. Next, we have the Hardy Outlander, a 2-mana background. Commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, another target creature you control gets +X/+X until their turn, X being this creature's power. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, it's not exciting, but it's pretty good, especially with it going on a commander. You can always just hit big. Alright, next we have jayas Respite. 5-mana instant. You may search the library for up to X basic land cards, X being the number of creatures attacking you, and you may put those cards on the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. In addition, you prevent all combat damage to be dealt this turn. Wow, what a big F you. I love it. Oh, this is a good card. It's a lot of mana to keep open, but it can be worth it against especially a token deck. So, I can see this card being run. Next, we have a Mythic Rare Sorcery, Majestic Genesis, an 8-mana spell. Reveal the top X cards of your library, X being the greatest mana value of a commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone. Oh, that's really good. You may put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I mean, that's got to be big. Oh my gosh. I mean, so me personally, I'm trying to run like Eldrazi stuff. It's just really good to see green getting out big creatures. You just need to run a commander that makes sense. It needs to have a big mana value. Next we have Master Chef, a 3-mana background. Commander creatures you own have that this creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, and other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. Okay, that's pretty good. Next we have the Monster Manual, which is, and you must always have the Monster Manual for Dungeons & Dragons. For 4 mana, it is an artifact, and you pay 2 mana, tap it. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That is pretty good. But you may also cast it as a sorcery adventure. For 3 mana, you can do Zoological Study, where you mill 5 cards and return a creature card milled this way to your hand. So you can set up putting a really big creature into your hand and then dropping it down. So pretty good. Not a whole lot of big creatures we've seen so far for green. We've seen one really big creature, but so far we're still looking. This might, I think this is just more incentive to get dragons out. So I definitely see it comboing well with the red. So then another background, we have Raised by Giants for 6 mana. Your commander creatures have base power and toughness 10/10 and are giants in addition to their other types. Wow, love that. That's really good. Next we have Sylvanas' Invoker, a 3-mana 3/2 Dragon Druid that has Conjure Elemental spell ability. For 8 mana, you may untap target land you control. It becomes an 8/8 elemental creature with trample and haste until the end of the turn. It is still a land. Okay. I mean, again, these abilities are really expensive. I'd want to see a way to discount them. Next, we have Wilson the Refined Grizzly, a 2-mana 2/2 legendary bear warrior. It cannot be countered as a spell. It has Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. It has Ward 2, and of course you may choose a background for it. It's a really small bear, but it can't be countered as when you're casting it. That's pretty good. It has Vigilance, it has Reach, it has Trample. Those are all really good. And Ward 2 just as an added benefit where it takes more to target it. Next, we have a card that the art on this card is amazing. Take a look at this. You look upon the Tarrasque, a 5-mana instant. You choose one of the abilities. Either you run and hide, or you gather your courage. I don't know how you're gathering your courage looking at this, but the option to run and hide is, I think, just by looking at this, the way to go. What do I get for running and hiding, which I'm doing? I'm preventing all combat damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control this turn. Yeah, I am. Alright, what would happen if I gathered my courage? Target creature gets +5/+5 and indestructible until the end of the turn, and all creatures your opponents control able to block that creature this turn do so. So that's pretty good. You know what? Now that I'm reading it, maybe it's supposed to be that either you're running and hiding from it or you are it. I don't know. It's hard to picture that. But alright, either way, those are both really good abilities. For 5 mana, I feel like run and hide's not really effective. I mean, Fog is 1 mana. Tangle Sap is 2 mana. Mist, I think, is also less mana. So the one that is good here is 5 mana +5/+5, indestructible. All creatures your opponents control able to block that creature this turn do so. So that's pretty good. I think that's the way to go. Alright, so that does it for our green. Now we go to our multicolored cards. We start with Asterion the Decadent, a 6 mana, 1 white, 1 black, 4/4 legendary vampire elf rogue with death touch with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, you choose one, either feed, target opponent loses life equal to the amount of life they lost this turn, or friends, you gain life equal to the amount of life you've gained this turn. Seems like a pretty powerful ability, especially if you're somehow able to make them lose half their life. This is just another, and you lose the other half and you lose the game. So that's a pretty good card. Next we have Baba Lysaga the Night Witch, a 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 black, 1 green, a 3/3 legendary human warlock where if you tap it, sacrifice up to 3 permanents. If there were 3 or more card types among the sacrificed permanents, each opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life, and you draw 3 cards. Okay, that's a lot. It's a lot to do. Interesting. I guess not terrible? I don't know. It just seems like a lot to sacrifice 3 things to draw 3 things, you know? You sacrifice your board state for hand advantage. I don't know. Alright, next we have Bale, Lord of Murder. Belial, Lord of Murder. Alright, so this is a 5 mana, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. Jesus. Is a 4/4 legendary god. That's a cheap god. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, then this has indestructible. And when another non-token creature you control dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and goad it. Okay, alright, yeah. I mean, pretty good. Not exciting, but pretty good. Commander Liara Porter, a 5 mana, 3 generic, 1 red, 1 white, a 5/3 legendary human soldier that whenever you attack, spells you cast from exile this turn cost X last to cast, where X is the number of players being attacked, and you exile top X cards of your library. Until the end of your turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards. Yeah, it's just a complicated card, but alright. It's not a terrible card. It's expensive for a commander, so you might just run it in your deck, though. Next, we have Duke Uller Ravengard. Is a 6 mana, 4 generic, 1 red, 1 white, 5/5 legendary human noble soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and myriad until the end of the turn. That makes a lot of sense. Expensive for a commander, but a really good card. Next, we go to Dynaheir Invoker Adept, a 4 mana, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white, 4/4 legendary human wizard with haste. You may activate abilities of other creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. Oh, nice. You may tap this creature, and you may, when you next activate an ability this turn, by spending 4 more mana to activate it, you copy that ability, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Wow, these are some pretty good cards. The multicolors are always pretty good. Alright, so now we have a Planeswalker to look at. This is Elminster, a 5 mana, 3 generic, 1 white, 1 blue, a legendary Planeswalker, of course. Elminster, they always are unique. They have their own name. They're always legendary. So this is a loyalty 5 when it enters. That says whenever it has a passive that whenever you scry, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of cards looked at this while scrying that way. Okay. The +2 loyalty is draw a card, scry 2. And the -3 loyalty ability is to exile top card of your library, create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to the card's mana value. Oh, and cool. Okay, and this Planeswalker can be your commander. Another thing that is worth noting is it has to be a legendary creature typically that's your commander. Really cool that this powerful wizard could also be your commander if you wanted it to be. For 5 mana, it's kind of pricey to make your commander. And as far as Planeswalkers go, I wouldn't say this was a terribly like, oh my gosh, amazing card, but drawing a card and scrying is always powerful as just a card to put into your deck. So if you can put it into your deck, I think you put it into your deck. I don't really think this is a card that you make your commander though. Alright, next we go to Glunch the Bestower. A 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 green, 1 white, 0/5 legendary jellyfish. It is flying at the beginning of your end step, choose a player. They put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Choose a second player to draw a card, and then choose a third player to create 2 treasure tokens. That's a nice little cute group hug little ability. Alright, so I like it. It's a good card. Next, Gorian, Wise Mentor. A 3 mana, 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue. It is a 3/4 legendary human wizard with vigilance. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it and choose new targets for the copy. Alright, that's cute. I like it. I mean, none of these are like blowing me away, but they're cute. Next, we have Jean Irenicus, the Shattered One. A 4 mana, 1 blue, 1 black, 2 generic. A 3/3 legendary elf wizard that at the beginning of your end step, target opponent gains control of up to 1 target creature that you control. You put 2 +1/+1 counters on it and tap it. It's goaded for the rest of the game. And it gains the ability that this creature can't be sacrificed. It also has the ability, whenever a creature you own but don't control attacks, you get to draw a card. Very interesting card, and for that reason, I love it. But I'm not really sure if it's a good card. Alright, next is Corlessa, the Scale Singer. A 2 mana, 1 green, 1 blue, 1/4 legendary dragon bard. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast dragon spells from the top of your library. Okay, green-blue though, that's interesting. I would think that would be green-red, but being able to look at the top card of your library at any time is definitely a blue ability, so I understand that. Next we have Lozan Dragon's Legacy, a 5 mana, 1 blue, 1 red. See what I'm talking about? A 4/2 legendary dragon shaman with flying. Whenever you cast an adventure spell or dragon spell, she deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target that is not a commander. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, you can even target a player or a planeswalker with that, so that's pretty good. As long as the planeswalker wasn't their commander. Next we have Mazzy, True Sword Paladin, a 4 mana, 1 generic, 1 red, 1 green, 1 white, 3/4 legendary human knight. Whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents, it gets +2 power and trample until the end of the turn. Whenever an aura you control is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you exile it, and until the end of your next turn, you may cast that card. This is pretty good for a Voltron deck. The idea being that you have one commander that you're buffing up with a bunch of enchantments, so that way you can, instead of them going to your graveyard, you have a way to pull them back out. So I definitely see this card being good in those types of decks. I don't think this would be your commander, though, unfortunately. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's good enough, but I don't think so. I think there are better ones to do with that. But I definitely think this is one of those cards you try to fit in if you can. Next is Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes. A 4 mana, 2 generic, 1 red, 1 green planeswalker. 3 loyalty when it enters the battlefield. And also, when he enters the battlefield... Oh my gosh, there's small text. Let me take a look. When it enters the battlefield, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create Boo, a legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token with trample and haste. Right, okay. We saw something similar to this before. We actually, yeah, this is a card that was revealed pretty early on. The +1 loyalty is you put 3 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature that has trample or haste. Sorry. And the -2 loyalty is that you sacrifice a creature, and when you do, this card deals X damage to any target, X being that creature's power. And if the sacrificed creature was a hamster, draw X cards. And also the other one is that this can be your commander. Okay. Yeah, this is really cute. I definitely could see this being a good commander, too. I just think that it requires some combos to happen. Maybe put Mazzy True Sword Paladin in that deck where he's your commander. That makes sense. Next we have Merkle, Lord of Bones. A 7 mana, 1 white, 1 black, 1 green, 4 generic, 7/5 legendary god. See, now these are more godlike stats. At 7/5, that's what I'm talking about. As long as your life total is less than or equal to your half of your starting life total, then this has indestructible. And whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it, and if you do, you create a token that's a copy of that card, except that it's an enchantment, and loses all of the card types. Ooh! Yes! I would follow the Lord of Bones. I would do that. Alright, next we have Oji, the Exquisite Blade, a 4 mana, 2 generic, 1 white, 1 blue, 2/3 legendary human monk. When he enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile up to 1 target creature you control and return to the battlefield under its owner's control. So you can just ETB for, yeah, that makes sense. You ETB again, you blink it. Not a bad card. Next you have Raphael, the Fiendish Savior. A 5 mana, stage 3 generic, 1 black, 1 red, 4/4 legendary Devil Noble. It has flying, and other demons, devils, imps, and tieflings you control get +1/+1 and lifelink. And at the beginning of each end step, if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, you create a 1/1 red devil creature token that has the ability, of course, when it dies, deal damage to any target. Just what we've seen with other devils before. Okay. This would combo well with some of the Streets of New Capenna cards we've seen, so that's not bad. Next, we have Rail Kingpin. A 5 mana, 3 generic, 1 blue, 1 black. 2/5 legendary human rogue with Death Touch. When this enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. There we go. Now we see the initiative again. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gains Death Touch until the end of the turn. And if you've completed a dungeon, that creature also gains +5 power and first strike and menace until the end of the turn. That is a really good card. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that card as being good. Maybe not for a commander, maybe so for a commander. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, I like it. Alright, so now we have another Planeswalker, which I wish Eric was here for, because these Planeswalkers are big deals to Eric, because I love Dungeons & Dragons. He lives and breathes Dungeons & Dragons. This is Tasha the Witch Queen, and she is, of course, a big deal within D&D, so he would freak out. I'm just going to go over the card as it is, and I'm just going to be glad she's a Planeswalker and listen and be excited about it when maybe he watches this video or I tell him. So this is a 3 generic, 1 blue, 1 black Planeswalker, 4 loyalty when she first is played. Whenever you cast a spell that you don't own, create a 3/3 black demon creature token. Okay. She can also be your commander, and if you add a loyalty, you draw a card, and for each opponent, you exile up to 1 target. Oh lord, small text. Hold on, y'all. Okay, so you draw a card, and for each opponent, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard, and put a page counter on it. Okay. The -3 loyalty ability is that you may cast a spell from among the cards that have been exiled that have the page counter on them without paying their mana cost. Okay. So it's a really good card. It reminds me of the Xander, right? The Kingpin dude? Yeah. No, not Xander. That's Streets of New Capenna. Sorry. Xanathar, that's right. This reminds me of Xanathar, so interesting. Next we go to Zevlor Elturel Exile. Okay, it is a 4 mana, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, 4/2 legendary Tiefling Warrior with haste. If you tap 2 mana and tap it, whenever you next cast an instant or sorcery spell, that targets a single opponent or a single permanent an opponent controls this turn. For each other opponent, choose that player or a permanent they control. Copy that spell, and then and the copy targets the chosen player or permanent. Woo, that's a lot. Very good card, just with a lot to go over. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the only colorless card to go over today, the Faceless one. A 5 mana background. And for it not to have a color, that's a very interesting choice, because it will not add any variety to your commander deck at all. So it's got to be good. This one says, if Faceless one is your commander, choose a color before the game begins, and this is the chosen color. Oh. And it's a legendary enchantment creature background. Oh, gosh. Oh, no, and then you can choose a background and go with this as your second commander. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm just going to let you guys decide. Moving on. Let's talk about these artifacts. Okay, so a couple things they're reprinting. It looks like right off the bat. Arcane Signet, 2 mana, at taps add a mana color of your commander's identity. Good card. Next, Charcoal Diamond for 2 mana. It enters battlefield tapped, but it taps for black mana. They're also doing the Dungeoneers pack, a 3 mana. Enters battlefield tap, tap 2, tap, sacrifice this. And you take the initiative, you gain 3 life, you draw a card, you create a treasure token, but you can only activate this ability as a sorcery. Not bad, just opening up your pack. Real quick, we have a bunch of other diamonds. So we get the fire, the marble, the moss. These are all cards that enter the battlefield tapped, and then when you tap them, they add a color devotion of that diamond to your mana pool. Okay, next we have the Nuatiloid ship. For 4 mana, this is a 5/5 vehicle with flying, a mythic rare. When this enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. Oh, right off the bat, coming out swinging. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card that has been exiled with this ship onto the battlefield under your control. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's rough. I like this card, but wow. Oh, jeez. Alright, I like the card. It's good. Next, we have Noble's Purse for 2 mana. When this enters the battlefield, it enters tapped and with 3 coin counters. If you tap and remove one, you create a treasure token. Alright, yeah, it's a little slow, but I get it. We're getting Swiftfoot Boots back again. This is the one that gives Hexproof and Haste, 1 mana equip cost. We have the Wayfarer's Bauble, 1 mana artifact that if you tap 2 and tap it and sacrifice it, you search the library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Wow-wee. So a much worse Myriad Landscape. Okay. A few of the lands, we have Baulders Gate, of course, which is a legendary gate. Tap it for a colorless mana or tap 2 and tap it to add X mana of any one color, X being the number of other gates that you control. Just synergizes well with all the other gates. Once again, we are, I say once again, but we didn't actually talk about this. They are bringing back gates because you need to have gates for Baldur's Gate. Bountiful Promenade is coming back. Command Tower is always coming in. Basically, all of our worst dual lands. We have like Luxury Suite, Morphic Pool. These are cards that enter the battlefield untapped so long as you have 2 or more opponents. So these are just good and these are really good cards for Commander. So they're strong. I love these. Reflecting Pool, add a mana of any type that a land you control could produce. And then they have reprints on the basics. What we saw in the Forgotten Realm set was that every land you played had really good flavor text, as if the deck was like your DM and you're the player. Like, just to give an example, we have one of these islands. It says, as you sail past the imposing, Jesus. Sorry, as you sail past the imposing sea tower. Oh, yeah, right, because the city would have a sea tower. As you sail past the imposing sea tower of Balderon, you realize that breaking your friend out of the prison will be much harder than you thought. Like, just the idea is you're on a quest, and this deck is just kind of reading out that quest to you. I love the flavor. So, not a whole lot of, like, the arts on these are okay. I'm not really excited about any of them, but I am pretty excited about the flavor of the lands. Sometimes I'll find myself reading it aloud as I play. I love Dungeons & Dragons. I'm a forever DM. For any of you who don't know what that means, it just means that anytime I do Dungeons & Dragons, it's me DMing it. I'm the Dungeon Master for it. So I do a lot of this flavor stuff whenever I'm playing Dungeons & Dragons because I'm reading this out to everybody. I need to set the scene. And what better way to set the scene than have this card that has beautiful art on it, or, you know, it's not bad art, and then it has this beautiful flavor text. It really lets you know you're not just playing any mountain. You know, you're about to hike this because you're doing it with the idea of finding a dragon, or you're not just on any, you know, island. You're here to break out your friend, and you're sneaking in through the ocean. Like, there's just so many cool flavors that you can do with these lands, and it really makes Magic the Gathering feel more immersive too. And that's what Dungeons & Dragons is all about, anyways. You know, you take a Dungeons & Dragons, which is a game of imagination, and then you take that to Magic the Gathering, where you have these cards you can look at. And I definitely think that there's just something really nice about that. So that does it for all the cards that we finally have out. I know I'm a bit late into the game, so we've been reviewing a lot of the cards that have been released over the past couple days. They'll be continuing to add to this database, so you'll see a few more videos of me popping up on your feed. So look out for those. In the meantime, if you, again, love some card that I didn't, you love a card I did, you disagree, you agree, whatever it is, you have some opinions about the set, I want to hear about it. Drop down in the comments down below. Baulders Gate, this is Dungeons & Dragons, this is Magic the Gathering. It's a draftable set. How do you feel about any of that stuff? I think it being draftable, me personally, I think that's a pretty awesome, I think it's really awesome to support Commander and have it be draftable. I like having an excuse to bring people together. And what I love about draftable sets, and this is always the case with anything you draft, is it sets you as close to being on the same page as your more skilled players. It makes it to where it's, you know, you have accumulated this wealth of cards and I haven't, but this is a way for me to have the same access to cards that you do, and now it's just a matter of us being able to notice what cards are good, understanding synergies and all that such. So I think that this makes it more interesting when you can draft it. That being said, some of the cards in here look really exciting. A lot of them are looking kind of okay. They're mostly for the draftable set. What do y'all think? Drop a comment down below, and you'll hear from me soon. Until next time, see you later.